Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So, a pleasant Sunday morning to our listeners and to those who are politically inclined individuals watching us right now. I am Lito Velasco, your today's host for the Philippine Media Association of Alberta's Meet the Press program. We are very thankful for having a guest who did not turn our invitation down, none other than Councilor Michael Oshry, a political aspirant running for the mayoral position in the city of Edmonton. So, Edmontonians, I would like to present to you Mr. Michael Oshry. So, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm great. I'm very happy to be here. I look forward to our discussion today. Thank you.
So, it's really a pleasure having you here. Sir, we are here today not to discredit your political opponents' programs, agenda, and platforms, but to construct and help the community or the voting force to select and elect the right candidate for this coming election in October 18, right?
That's right.
So, of course, I will allow you to the best of your sincerity and capability to convince Edmontonians to vote for you. So, sir, do you believe that a leader doesn't have to be a politician in order to serve?
That's an interesting question. You know, I think leaders in politics can come from anywhere and from any background. But I do think it's an enormous advantage to have some experience at City Hall and some experience with politics. But I also don't think it's beneficial to have 20 or 30 years being a career politician. So, you know, my background, I was on City Council for 4 years, so I call it a university degree in the city government, but I'm not a career politician, and my background is mostly in business as an entrepreneur, starting different companies in the city. So I think people can come from business backgrounds or from social backgrounds and do a good job as a leader. But I do think they need to have a little bit of experience in politics in order to understand how things work to get things done.
Okay, well said. So it's about ideals and ideologies. What is an ideal government, and who do you pattern your political career or ideology? Any specific model or name of the person? World's leader, city leader, famous leaders? Do you have any
Sure. Yeah, that's an
model?
Interesting question. So, there's a couple people that come to mind at the world level and at the city level, actually. So, Stephen Mandel did a lot of good things for the community, and I know him quite well. And so I like that he really built consensus and worked with City Council to get a lot of things done on the local level. And as the previous mayor, and as an international leader, I was born in South Africa, and I moved here, immigrated when I was a child from South Africa, and I just have this very deep understanding of Nelson Mandela and what he went through and what he did for that country and for people around the world. And I get chills just thinking about him. And so I just think of the values of what he stood for is just pretty meaningful for me. So that would be one that really hits home for me.
So, what's your political, pattern? Are you more Platonic or Aristotelian? For instance, Plato and Aristotle.
So
the politics of Plato.
Yeah, so I think in politics, I firmly believe that government's role should be to help people and to do what they can for the citizens, not this top-down approach that I think we have right now. And so my view on government is government should be going to cultural groups, should be going to business people, should be going to ethnic groups and saying, what do you want to build in our city and how can we help you? And that's what I think the role of government should be. It should be helping people achieve whatever they want to do within the rules. We all know there's rules, but that's really my view of government. And I don't think that's what's happening right now, and that's one of the things I want to change.
All right, thank you so much. So, sir, in the order of importance, please arrange the following questions and try to find which question, when answered, is gearing towards your goal or purpose. The what, who, when, where, which, how, why.
So I have to do that all in order by memory. So
No, just choose one.
You have to help me.
Maybe just
Yeah.
choose one. So when answered, it's that's going to be leading you to the purpose of it.
Right.
the
So
goal.
I think we have to figure out first of all what we have to do
What
as
to
a city government, because if we don't have priorities, then there's no priorities. And right now, I think there's no priorities, and we're trying to do everything for everybody. And city government is, we only get 6 cents on the tax dollar, so we don't have a lot of resources. We have to make some tough decisions. So number one, I would go with, what do we have to do as a government? And let's figure that out. What should we do? What shouldn't we do? What should we do? And what do we have to do about it? Then I would go with the who. We have to figure out, who is the appropriate people to talk to try to get to the best decision. And typically it's a lot of people. So we have to figure out who to talk to, whose input do we need in order to get things done. And then I think I would go with how, and then I'm very practical. So I go with how are we going to do this?
The approach.
So what's the approach? How are we going to do that practically? How are we going to afford it from an economic standpoint, from a tax level standpoint, and then from a practical implementation? Because you can have these great ideas, but if you don't know how you're actually going to get it done, then they're just ideas. And so for me, we have to really figure out then how we're going to do this, and then follow through and get those things done.
And why we have to do this.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, the why is kind of everything.
Why? Okay. So, since you have eloquently presented your ideas as you answered the previous questions, then can you still let us know your formula on how to effectively encourage to choose you as our leader or city mayor? More importantly, how would you influence and manage to bring these kinds of citizens in the polling places? First, the first-time voters. Second, those who no longer trust in politicians. Third, those who became apathetic about politics. How would you be able to bring this to the polling place, invite them to come out and vote?
Well, I'll answer this, all three of your points. As far as the first-time voters go, I think it's imperative that we explain to people that their vote matters, and that sitting around and not voting is not the way to affect change if you want change.
That's right.
And it's not only about voting; it's also about getting involved in the community in a variety of different ways. So whether it's on a community league, on the board of an ethnic group, in a group of business people that talk to government, you've got to get involved, in my opinion, with government. Voting is the first step. As far as trusting, right now we're at this time in politics that it's very polarizing, and we have a very far left and a very far right perspective on a lot of these issues in government. And I'm in the middle. I make decisions based on what I think is right, not based on ideological beliefs. And I think there's a lot of mistrust, because when people are really fed a lot of these far left or far right perspectives, a lot of it is not true, and then it leads to
Broken promises.
and mistrust. And so I think we've got to be really straightforward with people.
Yeah.
I'm a very practical person. I'm not a very, I'll say, slick politician. And I'm going to tell people what I think, and I'm going to tell people the facts, and I think that's what's going to earn the trust. And to your third point about being apathetic, I think it's the same thing. If people don't trust government, if they don't believe people do what they say, then they become apathetic and they don't really want to get involved.
Yeah.
And so I think we've got to, build trust, do what we say, and be very clear of what the options are.
Yeah.
And not mislead people. And if it's news that people don't like, we still have to deliver that news and take the heat. That's okay too. And I think we've really got to build the trust with the citizens and do what we say.
Practice what you teach.
100%, yes.
So, what do you think is the valid and credible reason why they chose to be indifferent and very uncooperative?
Who are you referring to?
So the voters,
Oh, okay.
the citizens.
Yeah. So, in Edmonton, municipal government, only about a third of people vote that are eligible. So the voting rate at municipal government level is, in the low 30%. And so what happens, I think, is because there's typically not really a big issue. So federally, there's issues, around immigration and those sorts of things that sometimes people get worked up about. Provincially, it's about, the economy and the oil and gas, environment, and those kind of issues. And municipally, I think the issues aren't necessarily as big, but they affect the issues may be slightly smaller, but they affect people's day-to-day life much closer. So and I think sometimes that hurts us as far as getting people involved in voting. The municipal level affects people directly as far as property taxes, but equally important as far as services that they get on their daily lives. If traffic is bad, if transit's not good, if the police aren't available, all these things really affect people's day-to-day lives. And so people need to understand that, and hopefully that'll get them more engaged at the municipal government level.
Yeah, thank you. So in the country like Canada, we obviously exercising, we are observing freedom. Okay. So, is it conflicting with what is going on right now? That the government, I've heard, especially at work right now, they are asking for the copy of the vaccination, proof of vaccination, and failure to present that proof will be tantamount to the termination of the employee. So, if freedom is considered, then do you think it is right to terminate an employee who is not complying with that policy?
I moved here from South Africa, and I moved here, as many people have, to Canada, because one of the things is because of freedom. Canada is a country that you can do within certain rules, but you can do whatever you want to do and live the life that you want to live. And I think that's obviously a common thread for why people move to Canada. As far as the vaccination certificates and all these things that are going up, I have a view that people are free to do what they want. You can't make somebody get an injection if they don't want to get an injection, but people are not free to put other people's lives and health in danger during a pandemic. They're free to do whatever they want for themselves, but they're not free to have their actions affect other people in a detrimental way. So my plan for the city is to say that all people have to be vaccinated, all city workers have to be vaccinated in order to use city services or to work for the city of Edmonton. But if you choose not to, which is your right, that's fine, but you have to, at your own expense, provide a clear test before you come to work or before you use a city facility every day. Because you're not free to affect the safety of others by not taking the vaccine. And we've been waiting for a year and a half for science to develop a vaccine. And you can't have an opinion on science. Science is science. Science is not wrong. Sometimes science change and then, things change. But you can't have an opinion on it. And if you don't want to have a vaccine, that's your responsibility, but then you can't affect other people negatively. And so I feel pretty strongly about this. I think, we have a solution to the COVID epidemic, which is vaccines. And if people don't want to do it, the onus should be on them. And they should be the ones having the challenges and problems, not the vaccinated population.
So thank you so much. In terms of political freedom or freedom of suffrage, so is there a possibility of legislating a policy that encourages everyone to go to the voting place? It happened in the Philippines before that we are issued with the voter's ID.
Yeah.
So everybody is obliged to vote. Otherwise, you will be sent to prison.
Yeah.
So can we do that?
So you're talking about mandatory voting?
Yeah, mandatory. Because if the problem is, the majority of vote is being sacrificed, if the vote is giving us the right to complain, then Because if I don't vote, if I did not participate, what right have,
Yeah.
di ba? Have we? If we are not going to vote, so therefore we are not given the freedom to complain. So can you do something to legislate that, or is it
Yeah.
against the Charter of Rights and Freedom?
So currently, I don't know if any level of government has the authority to do that. I know the federal government could. They did it in Australia, so another Commonwealth country. Australia, it's basically mandatory voting. And I think you don't go to jail, but I think you get a fine or something. So, my view is, you can't make people do what they don't want to do, and I don't believe in mandatory voting. And then there's actually a statistic, there's a math issue, that once you get a certain number of voters voting, the outcome of the election would be the same if everybody voted.
Okay.
So it actually doesn't matter from a number standpoint. The results are going to be the same. So I don't believe in making it mandatory. As far as people complaining whether they vote or not, that's people's prerogative.
Totally.
Very often people don't vote and then they complain.
Yeah.
I talk to people when I'm door knocking and they say, I'm not going to vote.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but it's built into our freedom. So I don't think
That's
it's
right.
I don't think it's necessary to go down that road.
Okay, thank you so much. And then the next question is, again, in the order of significance, which among the social problems,
Yes.
or shall we say concerns, would you really love and like to focus on? I have listed some, and please feel free to add more. But before that, let's take a couple of minutes break.
Okay.
All right, sir?
We'll see in a bit.
Hi, we're coming back with our very respectable guest, Councilor Michael Oshry, who's running for, the mayor of the city of Edmonton. So, sir, as I have mentioned a while ago before we take break, I have listed some of the social concerns and problems, and I am, encouraging you to choose at least 3 to 4 priorities, or it's up to you, arrange in order. So, sir, the first concern, housing, health, of course, the issue on the pandemic, education, peace and order, and security, transportation, political system or policy making, economy, business and industry, and budget allocation, city zoning, juvenile delinquency, public works and highways, water and sewerage, telecommunication, sports, racism and discrimination, arts and culture, and so many more. You may add up more social concerns that you really love to, tackle and serve in the future for the greater city of Edmonton. And in your experience as a councilor, have you seen any discrepancy or redundancy between city and provincial implemented policies? Are there policies or programs encroaching or overlapping or redundant between the city and the province? So please let the people know about your stand about these social concerns and problems.
Sure. How long do I have for this answer? Because I could talk about 2 hours. On all
just choose at least three.
Three? Okay. Yeah, it's hard to pick 3 that are the most important, but I'll try.
The most important problems.
So first of all, we have to get the economy back. If we don't get a strong economy back, and better than it was, we're not going to have the money, the resources, the tax revenue to challenge any of these other problems. So whether it's housing or infrastructure or safety and security and policing and all these things, if we don't have a strong economy and a strong tax base, we're going to be in big trouble with all of these things. So I'm not saying it's the most important, but boy, we've got to get that right. We've got to get people back working. We've got to get small businesses like this one back operating. We've got to get downtown being back vibrant, because that's a huge tax center. And so we've got a lot of work to do there. And my background's in business, and I understand the economics, I understand business, and we have to make sure that we get that right.
Yeah, because the economy is the backbone of
It's the backbone of everything. Yeah. Yes. And so and then around
society.
and then around that, I talk about when you talk about redundancy, the municipal government has 6 cents on the tax dollar that all levels of government have. So we don't have much money. And we've got to be smart with our taxes and really spend the money on municipal services. And I've committed to a tax decrease, property tax decrease. The property taxes in Edmonton have grown faster than cost of living for 15 years. When I left City Council in 2017 to now, this budget is $500 million more. And so we don't need more money. And I know I'm not supposed to talk about my opponents, but I'm going to on this point. Mr. Sohi, who's running, has an 8% tax increase in his plan, and businesses cannot afford that. People cannot afford it. People can barely stay in their homes. And businesses, an 8% tax increase at a 2.7 mill rate is almost a 20% tax increase, multiple years. It's crazy. So we've got to be smart with our money. I'll talk about housing next. Whether you're talking about affordable housing for people that unfortunately fall into homelessness, we have to deal with that. And I've got a plan. People can look on my website. I've got a plan around that. But we also have to talk about reasonably priced housing for citizens. We have to make sure that housing stock in Edmonton is reasonable, so people can afford a house and support their families and live a very comfortable life in our city. We have a great education system, which is not the mandate of the city, so I'm not going to talk about that. But that's a huge advantage of to our city. And then we have to build a city that has some interesting things going on. You mentioned recreation and children, and we've got a plan to have free rec center access after school every day for every kid in the city. There's a lot of families that can't afford it or don't have transportation there, so we can bus kids that need it into these facilities. And so that's the way I look at fixing some of these problems, is really dealing with practical solutions. How can we help a number of families in this case? And then maybe the last thing I'll talk about quickly is racism. We've got as I'm from South Africa. My family left during apartheid. That was the reason we left. I can tell you the story of my father, and he was a lawyer, and he was defending people that were charged under that terrible regime, and we ended up leaving because one of the reasons coming to Canada for a better life, and I have a innate understanding of how racism affects people in society. I'm Jewish, so at synagogue, when we go to synagogue, we have to hire police. People don't know that in Edmonton, the Jewish community hires policing. Every year, it's been like that for 40 years that I've been here. And so I have an understanding of how it affects society and what we have to do about it. We need stronger hate laws in the country. We need government calling it out every time something bad happens. And then we need to educate people, to have people understand that everybody in our city basically is the same. We have different cultures, different backgrounds, but everybody wants the same thing living here. They want a good job, they want affordable housing, they want to raise their family by giving them opportunity and have safety and healthy kids and just have a nice life here. And that's what everybody wants. And so we need to call out when these problems happen each and every time. I think maybe I'll leave there. I've got lots of other comments on some of the other ones, but maybe I'll leave it there.
All right.
Thank you.
So, thank you. It is very true, we are encouraging people to come out and vote because according to Soren Kierkegaard, it is better to be a participator rather than spectator. And second, you made mention a while ago that you are supporting the recreation plan, the program for the children.
Yes.
We really believe that we did not inherit this nature from our ancestors. We just borrow it from our children and their children's children. So Yeah, thank you so much for the exposition of your plan for the city of Edmonton. We believe that with your leadership, we could be able to get back to the track. And now I'm giving you the chance to encourage, invite the people, convince them why they have to be our mayor in the next how many years?
4.
4 years.
For the next 4 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Floor is yours.
First of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And thank you for your
Our
questions. They were
pleasure.
very thoughtful. Not many people ask me questions and talk about Plato and others. So very interesting.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Well, so thank you for that. I mentioned it earlier in my comments, and my view is that city government needs to be here for everybody to say to them, what do you want to do, what do you want to build, and how can we help you? And I know the Filipino community, as an example, has been talking about for years building a community center, and as one example. And the city needs to step up and help groups that are trying to do these things and make it as easy as possible. The reason, I'll be blunt, and I'm very straightforward, and so I'll give you my view of why I think I would be the best person for this for the role going forward. We're in a really tough time out of COVID, and there's a lot of anxiety and uncertainty as to where our social and economic successes are going to come from in our city, and we need to deal with these social challenges, and we need to deal with the economic realities. We're not going to have a lot of money for everything, and we're going to have to make some tough choices, tough decisions. And I have an experience of being at city council for 4 years. I've also got a lot of business experience with a company that has 100 people in Edmonton downtown, and another bunch of people in other countries working for me, and so I understand the economics, and I have no problem making decisions, and I have no problem being very straightforward, answering questions and telling people what I think. And we're going to need some really strong leadership. We can't do everything for everybody. It's just not going to work. But there are a lot of challenges coming ahead, and we're going to need someone who understands all these intricacies and making the right decisions. And then finally, I'll say is, I'm a fan of people. I care about people, and there's a lot of people in our city that need help, and we have to do something practically to help them. And I am going to work really, really hard to make sure that everybody has the same opportunity in our city as I was fortunate to have when I moved here. So thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you so much. And Edmontonians, you've heard what our Councilor Mike Oshry has said. He has, a comprehensive plan for all of us, and his focus is on economy because he believes that economy is the backbone of the society. A city body cannot run or be run without this economy. Okay, so once again, thank you so much, sir, for being here today to be our guest. And of course, thank you very much, Palabok House, Tita Lydia, for letting the PMAA Meet the Press program to be held in this place. Thank you very much, Brother Mo and Brother Dario Villa, for covering this event. So, good luck, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I very much enjoyed it. Thank you.